From the 25, Roethlisberger pulls it back, throws, has Juju Smith-Schuster. What a start to the night. One play, bang, touchdown
Steelers. The Eagles take over at the 17. Foles steps up. Foles delivers. Deep one-on-one. It's caught. Aguilar. Bye-bye. Touchdown. Eagles.
steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs. Sideline. Touchdown. Unbelievable.
All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Heated Sports Podcast. It is Week 11. The NFL season is wrapping up very soon before our eyes. Very upsetting to think about, but regardless, a lot of action happening in Week 10 that we're going to reflect on here this week. Breaking news with Colin Kaepernick getting an official NFL workout this Saturday. So another thing that we're kind of going to dive in on in a little bit as well. And some head coaches that are on the hot seat, I think, that could maybe get fired before season's end or probably immediately after. But we have a couple names in mind that we're going to kind of talk about, give our opinions on, and then, as you know, wrap it up with Week 11, previewing some of the matchups there, giving some of our upset picks. So, yeah, let's get right back into it. So, Week 10, I'd say probably the exciting week of the NFL season, most exciting week of the NFL season so far. A lot of upsets. I mean, a lot of games that really a lot of outcomes for games that no one really expected, no one really saw coming. I mean, the Rams completely just not doing a single thing on offense against Pittsburgh. That Pittsburgh defense looked amazing in Pittsburgh last week. Obviously, I'm very excited to see that. Did not expect that outcome to happen with Pittsburgh. I kind of talked about it last week a little bit. Pittsburgh has a pretty easy schedule going forward, but that game against the Rams I kind of had circled as one of their most likely losses to go throughout the rest of the year. But Pittsburgh pulls off the upset there. The defense looked amazing. Mason Rudolph did what he had to do to kind of get the job done. Not going to sugarcoat it or anything. The offense really didn't move the ball as effectively as I would have liked as a Steelers fan, but nonetheless, the Rams offense, I mean, I expect them to kind of just pick things back up here this week. But, yeah, definitely didn't look too good against Pittsburgh on Sunday. Anything to say about this game? I mean, fellow AFC North fan, not really going to talk about the Ravens too much this week and their beatdown against the Bengals, but what was your kind of reaction to this upset before we get to the next one?
To me, this was a pretty bad loss for the Rams to only put up 12 points. I mean, Steelers have a solid defense, but Sean McVay, I don't think anyone expected him to be struggling like this.
So 12 points, 7 of them was off a defensive touchdown on the very first drive of the game, and they had a safety. So they literally only put up a field goal for the entire game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Sean McVay. It looks like teams really caught up to him, but he is struggling more or as much as any coach out there to me right now, and it's crazy to see because he was the most talented guy in the league. He's who everyone was trying to copy just a year ago, and he's certainly struggling. So I think they're going to be able to turn it around. They have an extremely tough division, but Sean McVay, I still do believe in him, but like I said, it's just interesting to see him struggling and so soon after being one of the most impressive coaches of my generation that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like a good first impression, obviously. We all know going to the Super Bowl last season, ultimately losing, but yeah, from year to year here, Sean McVay, the offense just really hasn't looked the same. Todd Gurley still not back to his old self, and Cooper Kupp completely shut down on Sunday. 0 catches, 0 yards. So sorry, fantasy owners, if you're relying on one of the top fantasy receivers this year last week. Cooper Kupp completely laying an egg. They play the Bears this week, Week 11 on Sunday Night Football. So Sunday night they play the Bears at home. I think this is a potential bounce-back game. Yes, the Bears and that defense, that's going to be the first thing that comes to mind for most people hearing the matchup, but the Bears defense I don't think has been as dominating as last season. I could definitely see the secondary kind of getting exposed a little bit with the weapons that the Rams have, but it's ultimately going to come down to just if the O-line can protect Jared Goff, and then just Jared Goff having to make some throws here late in the game.
They lose this one. What are they, 5-5?
They're 5-4 right now. Yeah, so 5-5, a couple games back already out of that division. Maybe even out of the wild card if they go 5-5.
I'm going to call this a must-win game for the Rams.
Yeah,
I think it is. But Bears is a tough matchup.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be... I definitely think the loser of this game is officially done. The Bears kind of sparking a little bit these last week, beating the Lions, granted without Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. But Bears are 4-5, Rams 5-4. I would definitely agree. I think the loser of that game for sure, I think is probably done this year. But so I don't want to dive in on that matchup anymore. So let's keep going with the upsets from week 10.
Can we talk about 10? My favorite one from week 10?
Tennessee.
The Tennessee Titans over the Chiefs. I love
what happened. I mean, Kansas City's defense just non-existent at all in the fourth quarter. I mean, Ryan Tannehill putting up an almost perfect game-winning drive late in the fourth quarter to win that football game.
Yeah,
I mean, Mahomes looked fine. The offense looked great.
Mahomes had one of his best games of the season.
Yeah, Mahomes 400-plus yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill well over 150 yards receiving. I think Damian Williams had a pretty good game as well, running the ball. So no concerns on the offensive side of the ball. But this was the biggest concern, I think, going into the season for the Chiefs. If they can kind of repeat and get back to that AFC Championship, the defense just has to step up. And this is a game that I think most people, especially with Mahomes looking like he did, the Chiefs should have ran away with this game, and it just didn't happen.
To me, it's becoming more and more obvious the Chiefs aren't the Super Bowl contender we thought they were. They're barely cracking the top 10 for me personally. Just their defense and special teams are just such a burden. They're just holding them back. But I got to give some credit to Tannehill. I saw that last drive, and it was incredible. The guy, he clearly wanted to win. I wasn't sure about that quarterback change over Marcus Mariota, but after watching that game, especially at the end, the touchdown and the 2-point conversion, Tannehill, he's kind of sparking the Titans, and I love it. This guy,
at the perfect time, too.
He finally got his chance, and he's leading his team to what is, in my opinion, one of the biggest upsets of the season. And I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate the quarterback change a whole lot. I mean, just mainly because Mariota was just playing so poorly. But that's not because I was a believer in Tannehill. I just think a change needed to happen in Tennessee, and they went with it. And yeah, so far it's definitely worked. But I mean, looking at the records in that matchup now, so Kansas City falls to 6-4. They haven't had the bye week yet, I don't think. So they're a half a game ahead of Oakland. But Oakland's also 5-4. So right around that same record there for the AFC West. Who would have thought? I mean, not many people believed in the Raiders. The two of us have kind of been fans and kind of expected them to do some things, but for them to be tied with the Kansas City Chiefs right now, I mean, I definitely think it's more surprising that the Chiefs are struggling. Granted, not having Mahomes those couple weeks doesn't help their cause, but I mean, a lot of teams are in that 5-4, 6-4 range right now, whether they're leading the division or they're kind of in the hunt for those 2 wild card spots. So the AFC playoff picture is kind of a mess right now. Mm-hmm. But a lot of teams kind of in that hunt. Pittsburgh, another one at 5-4. They're in the 6th spot, second wild card right now. Other teams like the Colts 5-4. The Titans go to 5-5 after the win. So a lot of those teams going to be in that hunt for the wild card spots this year in the AFC.
It's crazy. I don't think anyone expected the Chiefs to be kind of battling this hard to the end for that division spot, and against who else but the Raiders. We kind of thought it'd be a Chiefs-Chargers battle, but the Raiders rallying around Josh Jacobs, kind of the star of that team. They're putting together a good season, and they got the Bengals this week. Should be an easy win for them, and they're gonna stay competitive. It looks like through the end against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting. That's definitely one to keep an eye out, especially if this Kansas City defense can't get it together. Because the Raiders, on the other hand, that defense looked pretty good, forcing a lot of turnovers Thursday night. Phillip Rivers, I think he officially threw 3 interceptions. I think on the books he threw 5, but I think a couple got called back. But yeah, that defense forcing some turnovers for Oakland. But I want to transition here now to an NFC divisional matchup, the Falcons. Falcons not winning since week 3, and they're upset against the Eagles. They go to New Orleans and beat the Saints handedly. 26-9 final score in that one. Saints get their second loss overall. Falcons get their second overall win. An upset that I don't think anybody saw coming. I said last week that the Saints were going to pound Atlanta. But, I mean, it's the Atlanta team that I think a lot of people expected to show up all season. They have the pieces on offense to get things done. Matt Ryan, MVP just a few short years ago. Julio Jones, arguably the best wide receiver in football. Austin Hooper playing like the best tight end in football, even though he did end up going down with an injury. I think he's going to be out for a couple weeks there. But regardless, going into the game, their offensive core is great. The defense steps up like they did last week. I mean, this is a team that should be winning more games, and they're just not.
This was a crazy upset to hold the Saints to 9 points, and it was at in
New Orleans. Yep.
And the Saints you don't see that happen with Drew Brees back too. The Falcons, they were on a 6-game losing streak. The Saints were on a 6-game winning streak, and I don't know one person that would have seen this coming.
And Drew Brees came off the injury last week, and he looked great. I mean, he threw 3 or 4 touchdowns in his first game back. This game, 32 for 45, 287 yards passing, no touchdowns, no picks. Just not a good outing whatsoever. I mean, especially for him, if you throw the ball 45 times, having less than 300 yards, for a guy like Brees that's expected to throw for north of 300 yards, if you're throwing that much, doesn't look too good. I think the more disappointing outcome, Michael Thomas had a great game looking at it now, 13 catches, 150, so he came out just fine in that scenario, but
Kamara was
Alvin
back. They didn't
Kamara,
get him going.
4 carries, 24 yards for Alvin Kamara in his first game back off the injury.
It's not even like it was a Latavius Murray game. They just didn't get the run game going.
No.
Neither of them were effective. And one thing I want to say is I think this makes Teddy Bridgewater's 5-0 run with the Saints more impressive.
Oh, absolutely.
People were taking it for granted. They were just thinking the Saints are a great team, plug in a guy, he doesn't have to do much. But to me, Teddy Bridgewater, he's a good quarterback, and this proves it that this isn't just a team that can beat anyone with any quarterback. Mm-hmm. Teddy Bridgewater's got something, and he's going to get paid this offseason.
He's going to get paid. He's going to win some games for another team for sure.
I love Teddy Bridgewater. So, like I said, this just makes what he did more impressive to me because I think people were taking it for granted.
For sure. And yeah, just one other thing. I mean, you mentioned Latavius Murray. He had 5 carries for 12 yards. So him and Kamara combined, arguably the best running back duo going into the season. 9 carries, 36 yards. Just not effective whatsoever. And especially when they were down early in that game, they just couldn't get anything going against Atlanta. Any other matchups you kind of want to touch on? We can talk about, the Dolphins. If we actually want to talk about the Dolphins, they got their second straight victory, 16-12 over the Indianapolis Colts without Jacoby Brissett for a second straight week. Anything to touch on there? Fitzmagic's back. Maybe he gets the upset against Buffalo this week to go 3 in a row. But
just kind of confused at what the Dolphins are trying to do here.
Yeah, they're not doing this whole tanking. Yeah, they're not doing this tanking thing very well. I think the biggest fans of that win have got to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They now have, still a 1-game lead for that first overall pick. The Washington Redskins still only have 1 win. So maybe hoping the Redskins get a win here or there if you're a Bengals fan. But the Dolphins really they're not doing the whole tanking thing very well. They're winning a couple games.
With that Alabama LSU game, watching Joe Burrow just be absolutely incredible. Yep. The Bengals, they're gonna like having that number 1 pick and having options with
they're not tanking
terrific quarterbacks.
They're not tanking for Tua anymore. They're blowing for Burrow. That's what we're doing now. So,
one final upset. We did have the Browns over the Bills, which was the upset of the week on my half here. I think that I saw this one coming. The Bills are extremely overrated in my opinion, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make the playoffs.
It's interesting. I was going to kind of say the same thing or go along those lines, but their schedule is just so easy that, on paper, they should be sleepwalking to the playoffs, I think. But, offense just has not been able to get things going for the most part the entire year. It's mainly been carried by that defense. But, the Bills have some interesting matchups coming up. I know they play Pittsburgh down the stretch, so that could be potentially a good game to kind of maybe just decide a wild card spot, because I think they play them in December next month. So, that's kind of when things are heating up a little bit. Playoff races are starting to take their shape a little bit more, so that could be a matchup to watch out for. And me as a Steelers fan, I'll definitely be circling on the calendar to keep an eye on.
I think finally for the upsets, we got to touch on that Monday night matchup.
Yep, I wasn't going to ignore that one because I think that's arguably the best game of the season so far. Down to the wire, overtime.
Week 2, maybe it was. That was
that was week 1. That was Monday night, week 1 with the Will Lutz game winner.
That's my favorite.
That's definitely up there too. But Seattle 49ers. Seattle gets the win in overtime, 27-24. Some shaky decisions. Russell Wilson driving down that first drive in overtime. Looks like he's going to steal the deal. Another speculative overtime win where the second team doesn't even get the football. Russell Wilson throws a costly interception in the red zone. Gives the 49ers a chance to win the game with a field goal. Robbie Gould, Pro Bowl kicker, very veteran kicker, makes a lot of clutch kicks. I would say. I think we can both agree. Out for the game. Rookie kicker comes in back up, nails the game tying field goal. It was 40-50 yards, I think. So he ice in his veins for that one, and then probably the ugliest field goal attempt I've ever seen in overtime. Didn't even come close to the uprights. So
on the tunnel.
Yeah. So after that unfortunate miss, Seattle goes right down afterwards and kicks a field goal for themselves to win the game. But overall, this could be potentially an NFC Championship matchup, I think. After kind of getting a sneak preview here, Jimmy Garoppolo is starting to play a lot better, I think, these last couple games. Had some questionable throws, but overall making the throws he needed to make, especially with George Kittle out, Emmanuel Sanders going down early.
They were out of weapons by the end of the game.
So Garoppolo was struggling to find some weapons. Deebo Samuel steps up, picked him up in fantasy off a waiver, so I think he could be a good asset for Garoppolo, but I don't think a clear number 1. Emmanuel Sanders and Kittle definitely helping that offense out a lot. Seattle, on the other hand, Russell Wilson still playing like the MVP favorite, in my opinion, throwing dimes left and right. Also, still doesn't have a whole lot of weapons. Josh Gordon was active for the game, but really wasn't used a whole lot. I think he only ran like a handful of routes, maybe had 1 or 2 catches that I can think of off the top of my head.
2 for 20, I think.
Yeah, so still throwing to DK Metcalf a lot. So Metcalf's been a valuable asset late in the draft for the Seattle offense. But yeah, I mean, I love these two teams. It was a great game down to the wire, what a lot of people expected. And yeah, I mean, NFC Championship potential for sure.
49ers got their first loss, but I think the future is bright for both of these teams. They have a really great opportunity to make something happen for the rest of the season and the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of all I want to say there. So you touched on your upset of the week. So you did pick correctly in the Browns over the Bills. I agreed with you in that one as well, but you had first dibs this week. I took the Panthers over the Packers afterwards, and I was still pretty close. I mean, we had a blizzard in that game. One McCaffrey stuff away from tying the game, or potentially tying the game pending a 2-point conversion, but 24-16, the Packers ended up getting that victory there, so just wanted to touch on that real quick. Vikings beating the Cowboys as well. Not going to dive into this one a whole lot since we kind of are running a little long with this segment, but Vikings without Adam Thielen going to Dallas, get the dub. Kirk Cousins squashes like the speculative rumors of him being bad in primetime. Well, I guess they're not rumors because he is statistically horrible in primetime, but not on Sunday. Looked pretty good. Dak also playing well. Running game with Zeke just couldn't get it going, really. Amari Cooper looked amazing. So a pretty good battle between the two, I would say, high-powered offenses. At least it looked like it in this game. But Dalvin Cook got the run game going a little better than what Zeke could, and I think that was probably one of the deciding factors if you look back at it.
Zeke's been surprisingly ineffective this year. I think watching him, I've seen a few Cowboys games. He just hasn't looked as explosive. He's obviously not putting up the numbers that we're used to Zeke seeing, and just kind of interesting. He got paid to be the guy, and now the Cowboys are kind of relying on Dak Prescott and that passing offense to win them games. And Zeke has kind of fallen second hand on that offense. He's not doing a lot, hasn't looked like Zeke, and I think we saw Dalvin Cook kind of prove himself here to be maybe the guy in the NFL, one of the best rushers.
It's definitely tough, though, because Zeke was the guy that Dallas and Jerry Jones chose to pay. Like, we all know about the Zeke holdout before the season started. They paid Zeke his contract, and now Dak and Amari Cooper are the 2 out of the 3 that are lighting it up on offense, and they're the 2 that haven't been paid yet. So probably not what Dallas wanted to see if you're trying to pay all 3 of these guys, but yeah, I mean, they're going to have to pay both of them at some point, I think, and it's going to have to be sooner rather than later, because Dak, whether you like him or not, Dak is playing at a very high level this season, and Amari Cooper even more so at the wide receiver position. And I think if you lose either one of those guys, the offense just significantly loses a lot of its potential.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so that's really all we got about Week 10. Hit a lot of the major upsets, a lot of the major matchups for that week that we wanted to talk about. So before we preview Week 11, I want to transition here a little bit. So Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is back in the news. He has an official NFL workout on Saturday. So a lot of kind of drama, a lot of details surrounding this. One of the biggest ones noting that most NFL workouts for free agents happen on Tuesdays. So unfortunately, Colin Kaepernick and his team requested to have it on Tuesday. NFL said no. Colin Kaepernick and his team asked why. NFL didn't answer. So Colin Kaepernick's workout is on Saturday. This Saturday, it might have already happened depending on when you're listening to this. But the official team list came out that of what teams are expected to be there, what teams have confirmed to be, or at least have a representative at this workout on Saturday. So I'm going to go down the list. Let me know what you think, any like surprising teams that are maybe going to be in attendance, or what teams you maybe even think have a shot of like having interest in landing them when it's all said and done. So we have New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, Detroit Lions, Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Cleveland Browns, New York Jets, New York Giants, Tampa Bay Bucks, Washington Redskins. Now, I have some that make sense. I think the easiest one that doesn't make any sense is the New England Patriots. But at the same time, Brady's getting old. Who knows how that's going to play out? He's a free agent technically at the end of the season. I'd be shocked if he goes anywhere else, but maybe he retires or they win another Super Bowl. Any of those stand out to you at all? I think you were probably going to say the Patriots as well, so sorry if I stole that from you. But any other ones there that you were kind of surprised about or you think might have some potential?
Honestly, not really. I think that, those are the official teams. I think more teams are going to have a scout there and take a look at Kaepernick. And I think he's going to look very well. I think he's going to perform well and attract some attention from almost every team that's there. As for the fit, I can't say. I would just predict that if he goes somewhere, I would say maybe a team that's looking to make a playoff run with a weak spot at backup quarterback, because I think he's a backup at this point in his career. And he could be useful just as a nice insurance policy for one of the stronger teams, just in case their quarterback happens to go down late in season. But yeah, most of this kind of Kaepernick news. It doesn't mean a lot to me. I don't think it's going to turn into anything serious.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are kind of speculating that it could just be like a publicity stunt for the NFL. A lot of these teams, I mentioned almost half the league is confirmed to be in attendance, but who knows if any of those teams will have enough interest to actually go out and get them. My opinion on the whole Kaepernick thing, politics and everything aside, he's been out of the league for almost 3-4 years now. Colin Kaepernick is a backup quarterback until proven otherwise, in my opinion. So with that being said, I mean, you have a lot of teams in here that could use some, like another guy of his talent in like the quarterback room just to add some depth, like you mentioned, or just to maybe be in the competition to be a potential starter when next season rolls around. Teams like the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, I think Jameis has been playing at least a little bit better as of late, but still, Tampa Bay, no like solidified backup behind Winston. Washington Redskins, I don't think Case Keenum's going to be there after this season, so between Kaepernick and Dwayne Haskins maybe isn't ready or maybe isn't showing what he needs to be showing. Have Kaepernick in there to compete with him. New York Giants, I think Daniel Jones, he threw 4 touchdowns last week. Daniel Jones has looked really good in my opinion. That one really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Atlanta Falcons also doesn't. Cardinals really doesn't either. Again, Kaepernick and Kyler Murray's skill set's kind of similar to one another, so maybe a potential backup there that could build around that offense just like Kyler's been doing. Denver's another interesting one. I don't think they're going to be using Joe Flacco a whole lot next season or even after that. I'm not sure what his contract situation's like. I think Flacco might be there for another year, but who knows how it actually plays out. They have a young guy, Drew Lock. Drew Lock's officially practicing. That's a guy I kind of mentioned in the last week or two on the podcast. They drafted him pretty early, late second round. They're definitely going to try to use him, I think, before the season's all said and done, just to see what you have in Drew Lock. But again, when you have some questionable like rookie quarterbacks in there, you really don't know what you have yet. A veteran like Kaepernick in the quarterback room might not be a bad fit when it's all said and done. You have John Elway. He's not afraid to make moves there in the front office for Denver. So I would definitely say Denver. Miami we really didn't talk about either, but Miami's definitely taking a quarterback in the draft, so I don't know there. So kind of going over the names in my head again, I'd probably look at Tampa just as a backup for Jameis or even a potential successor for Jameis if they want to go a different direction next season. Washington or Denver would probably be the 3 that I think would have a good shot at landing him I think the need is there, is how I should phrase it. So the need is there. If either of those 3 teams would actually want to do it, I think those would be the most likely destinations.
Yeah, I don't think we see him make an impact this year, but I think it's more than likely he'll end up on a roster.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, I definitely think the guy's talented enough. But like I said, a lot of people think about that Super Bowl run that he had where they lost to the Ravens. What was that, in like 2014 or something? 2012. Jeez. So, like, he's not that guy right now, obviously. Like, it's been 7 years since that Super Bowl run. He kind of took a slight nosedive those last couple years of him as a starter before all the political stuff went into play. So, like, he's not like a Pro Bowl level talent that's just been sitting and collecting dust now that not in the league. So, I mean, I think a lot of people need to kind of realize that, take a step back. He's going to be a backup if he goes anywhere right out of the gate. So, I still think it sounds like we both agree, he deserves to be on a roster, though. Transitioning here again, I'm trying to think of what direction I want to go first. So let's talk about some head coaches on the hot seat potentially. So we kind of talked about this a little bit before we started recording. A couple names in mind that I want to go over, get your thoughts on, see if you agree or disagree. Freddie Kitchens.
Gotta go.
Freddie Kitchens, I think he has to go. Fun stat for me as a Steelers fan, the last 6 Cleveland Browns head coaches have all gotten fired after a Pittsburgh Steelers loss. So,
interesting.
Could that happen today? We're recording this right before the Steelers-Browns Thursday night game. Could potentially happen, but guess what? 2 weeks from now, they play again for the second time. So say they lose this week, and then they get blown out again the second week. In 2 weeks when they play again. Then it could be time to get rid of Freddie Kitchens. But either way, I don't think he's going to be the head coach into next season. So whether they pull the trigger now mid-season or they pull the trigger after the season's done, us and a lot of people in the media agree Freddie Kitchens is gone in Cleveland. I brought him in. He was the interim guy last year. Didn't really they wanted to go with him again. This is a guy that Baker's been pushing for. Baker really liked him as an offensive coordinator, as the play caller for him. So Baker's guy, obviously not looking like they did last season on offense. Kitchens really just hasn't gotten the job done. So I'm glad we can both agree there. But another one is Dan Quinn. Atlanta Falcons head coach, been there for a while now. Had some obviously successful years, losing in the Super Bowl to the Patriots a few years ago in 2016. But Dan Quinn, 1-7 start, ended up, like we said, got their second win last week, beating the Saints, which might have saved his job because if they got blown out in that game, I don't think he would have made it back to Atlanta. I think they would have fired him on the spot, if I'm being honest. Atlanta, I don't think a lot of people had hopes for them as like Super Bowl contenders, but they're not a 1-7, 2-7 team. Like, this is a very talented roster that should be winning more games, like I mentioned earlier. So it's kind of tough, but I mean, I think Dan Quinn's going to be gone here as well if they take some more like heavy losses before the season ends.
Yeah, I think they have a very talented team, and before that win against the Saints, I thought he was the next coach that would be out, just because of how much they were underperforming this year, especially with the 6-game losing streak that they just snapped. So he definitely bought himself some time, but I don't think he is going to be part of the Falcons' future.
Yeah, I want to look ahead here real quick just to see what the Falcons got going. So they're in Carolina this week, which is one of the matchups I want to touch on. So that could be a potentially good game. I mean, I think Carolina wins that game, but if they keep it close, I don't think anything's going to happen there. Just looking ahead one more week. The Falcons play the Bucks. They play the Bucks in Week 12, so that's a winnable game. But again, if they keep losing winnable games, I don't think Dan Quinn will last the season. That's just kind of my personal opinion. So, a coach that heard some good news this week, though, Jets coach Adam Gase, another coach that Jets fans in particular were kind of trying to get out of town sooner rather than later. New head coach. Again, a lot of these guys are first-year head coaches. Freddie Kitchens, obviously Dan Quinn is not in Atlanta, but another guy, Adam Gase, former Miami coach, first-year head coach with the Jets. A lot of people booing him, trying to get him out of town. Jets having a very disappointing season, albeit C.J. Mosley injury, Sam Darnold, mono, kind of some things that are out of Adam Gase's control, but still a lot of people wanting Adam Gase out of town. But it's confirmed GM is keeping Adam Gase. He will be the head coach going into the 2020 season for the Jets. So, Jets fans, sorry. If you love him or hate him, you're stuck with him for at least what sounds like the beginning of next year. We'll see how it plays out from there. So, Adam Gase's job is secure. Another guy, though, sticking with New York or New Jersey, Pat Schumer for the Giants. Very disappointing season for the Giants as well. They're 2-8. They have a bye week this week. Giants are 2-8. Very talented roster, but it's kind of tough when you're starting a rookie QB for most of the season. Defense definitely needs some work.
Saquon's been hurt.
Yeah, but nonetheless, 2-8. I don't think Pat Schumer was ever the guy, but, I mean, what do you think? Do you think Pat Schumer's going to be there for a while? Do you think Giants hold on to him?
I don't think he's a great coach. I think they should move on from him, find someone else.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not this year, but maybe before entering next year it might be a good idea, because I don't really see this guy being the right fit for the Giants, especially now with Daniel Jones. I don't know.
I feel like when you get a new starting quarterback, especially a potential franchise quarterback, that's like the perfect time to get a new head coach. Get a head coach that's going to work with the quarterback, that's going to build around the quarterback, and just makes the right moves. And Pat Schumer's already been there for a couple years, a couple disappointing years, I would say. So that's just not a great situation to start your franchise over with Daniel Jones. But yeah, that's another one that I definitely wouldn't be surprised if he's gone before season's end or right after the regular season wraps up. But that's really all I have, to be quite honest. I was trying to just scroll through again real quick to see if there's any other ones. I've heard Matt Patricia's name kind of thrown around a little bit. Some Lions fans not too happy after a strong start these last few weeks. But nonetheless, I think Matt Patricia's going to be there. I think he has the talent. But the thing that's kind of like struggled for him is that he's been the defensive guy. Like, he's a defensive-minded head coach. We all know him from New England those last few years. So one other guy that I've kind of seen like throughout the media a little bit, his name's been thrown around, is Lions head coach Matt Patricia. So again, he's been there for a few years now. I think he's looked pretty good. They obviously had the strong start this year. I don't think he's going anywhere, even though they've kind of fallen off here these last few games. Fans probably aren't very happy with that. The thing with Matt Patricia, though, like, he's been the defensive-minded head coach. We all know him from the New England days behind Bill Belichick as the defensive coordinator. Coming over to Detroit, defense has kind of struggled, so when you're a defensive-minded head coach and the defense is not looking very well,
They've really struggled.
Yeah, so that's going directly onto the head coach if that's the case for Matt Patricia, but I don't think he's going anywhere. You agree, disagree? I mean, I think he's a good coach. I think if you start building that defense up, I think he'll know what to do with him.
I think he is a good coach, and I think they had some really impressive wins this year. And I don't know, they've had injuries. They lost Kerryon Johnson, their star running back. Now Matt Stafford's down, and I think Matt Patricia is definitely he's a good coach in this league, and I think the Lions are going to stick with him for the foreseeable future.
All right. Yeah, so that's where I'll wrap it up. That's all the names that I had. So let's transition over to Week 11 matchups. So a very, very exciting Week 9 and Week 10, in my opinion. A lot of great games, a lot of great upsets. So previewing Week 11 here. Again, like we mentioned, recording this right before the Thursday night matchup, Steelers at Browns. Divisional matchup, I would say surprising Steelers versus a disappointing Browns team. Being all biases aside, I think Pittsburgh wins this game. I think it's going to be close. Am I confident in the game? Not entirely. I'm definitely a little nervous. because again, on paper, Cleveland has a very talented team, but I don't think it's going to come out. I think Pittsburgh's defense that we saw last week is going to be back again this week. Prime time, division rival. I don't think Baker's going to be able to move the ball a whole lot. I think Nick Chubb, I don't see him going over 100 yards. I think it's going to be a good matchup. Good defensive battle, because Mason Rudolph's also kind of struggled. I don't see the offense putting up a lot of points. James Conner's back, though, at running back. Running game has definitely struggled without him the last few weeks, so hopefully that'll kind of light a spark. Get the run game going early, make it a little better for Mason Rudolph, get some play action maybe behind the O-line. I go like Pittsburgh in this game. Fellow AFC North fan, agree, disagree?
Agree with you, just because Mason Rudolph is better than Baker Mayfield.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I've seen previewing this week, this whole the last couple of days, I've seen that comparison here and there. So
I love the Baker Mayfield hate, and I will take part in it every single time. So yeah, Mason Rudolph outperforms Baker Mayfield in this matchup. I think that's what's going to happen, and the Steelers are going to win comfortably.
Comfortably?
Yeah.
Right. I like that. I'm not gonna argue.
And I hate the Steelers.
Yeah, I like it. So, kind of going through some other matchups. Just going to kind of go down the list I have here on my phone. So, Dallas Lions, not a whole lot to talk about here, at least not in my opinion. Amari Cooper's been questionable, I feel like, the entire season, but it looks like he's going to suit up and he's going to play.
Cowboys going to shred that defense.
Think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I have a lot of those guys in fantasy, so I could use the boost. Lions defense, like we already just said, has been struggling a lot. See if Dallas kind of bounces back there. Oh,
how about that Texans-Ravens 1 o'clock matchup?
Texans-Ravens looks great. That's one of probably my favorite matchups this week. In Baltimore, so definitely advantage Baltimore. I mean, I think advantage Baltimore already with how well they've been playing, but at home just helps them even more.
2 of the top 5 MVP candidates.
Texans off a bye, though, so an extra week of rest, extra week of preparation for Baltimore. So I'm excited for it for sure. I think Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson battle is going to be great. Definitely going to try to watch as much of this 1 o'clock game as possible. Nervous at all? I mean, Houston, I would definitely say, is probably one of the top teams in the AFC, along with Baltimore, even though they've kind of had their struggles. But yeah, definitely a game that I think both teams have a solid chance of winning.
Yeah.
I'd probably put my money on Baltimore just because I think I give the slight edge in defenses to Baltimore over Houston, especially without J.J. Watt. So I would definitely look at that be the deciding factor, but it's going to be close.
I'm a Baltimore fan, and they've looked amazing. I've seen them on many power rankings, either 1 or 2. So they're, if not the top team, very close to it in the NFL. But this game is definitely not an easy win for me. I think Deshaun Watson is incredible, and like you said, they're coming off a bye. I think the Texans are really going to keep this one close, but hopefully the Ravens pull it out in the end. But I think it's going to be a really exciting game. These guys are both electric, and I love them both so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So another game that I actually wanted to talk about for a change, or a team rather, the Jacksonville Jaguars, because Nick Foles is back in the starting lineup. Obviously, we all know collarbone injury during his first start with Jacksonville in Week 1. He is officially off IR and back, confirmed to be starting against the Colts this week.
Brissett's back too.
Brissett is back. That's official? He's going to be playing?
I think he is.
Okay. Because I knew there was a good chance, but I didn't hear for sure. So
I don't know if it's official, but
okay.
I can almost guarantee you.
I'm down to go with it though, because if I had to guess, I definitely think he's going to be playing. So both are starting quarterbacks being back. Nick Foles, I'm excited to see what he can do. Kind of throwing all the Gardner Minshew hype aside. Nick Foles' job is back. He is the starting quarterback. 1 o'clock game in Indianapolis. I'm excited to see what can happen. You
really am too.
Have some weapons there. Leonard Fournette's been playing really well this year. You have DJ Chark kind of coming out of nowhere. Nick Foles really hasn't gotten the chance to throw to Chark a lot. Obviously, only playing for essentially 1 half this season. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do with guys like Chark, Chris Connolly, another young receiver they've kind of used a lot in Jacksonville. So
could be bad news for Chark. I think Minshew kind of leaned on him. He easily became his favorite target. So Nick Foles might spread the ball around a little more, maybe find someone else he likes to throw to. But yeah, Fournette has been one of maybe the most underrated players in the league this year. He's been producing incredible numbers, like almost every single game. This guy has been borderline unstoppable. So the Jaguars have a lot of pieces on this offense. Their defense is still solid as well. So if Foles can come back and play well, this team, I don't know, they could make a little run here.
Yeah. So I'm just going down the list here again. Bills-Dolphins. So again, a sneaky game that the Dolphins could maybe get their 3rd straight win at home against an overrated Buffalo team that we both kind of agreed on as well. So again, not really going to dive into detail on all these matchups, but just kind of going through them. Wouldn't be surprised to see an upset there. Broncos at Minnesota. So Brandon Allen coming off a bye week, getting his 2nd straight start. Got the victory against Cleveland 2 weeks ago through, I think, 2 touchdown passes. So it didn't look too bad for a low drafted rookie. But definitely a tougher matchup in Minnesota. Minnesota's defense, definitely a tough team to keep up with there, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Going to skip over some of these. Jets, Redskins, really don't have a whole lot to say there. Let's see if the Jets offense can kind of keep it going against the game they should win. Saints against the horrible Tampa Bay Bucs defense. So if there's a game that Drew Brees and the Saints kind of bounce back on offense, it's got to be against Tampa Bay. So we'll keep an eye out there as well. Falcons, Panthers, I kind of touched on a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Falcons getting that upset. So at Carolina here, I mean, anything to say here? I mean, do you think Atlanta kind of keeps it up? If that defense carries them like they did, they have the power on offense to win some more games.
No, I don't think they're going to stop Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, definitely a lot tougher. I mean, they stopped Aaron Jones or attempted to stop Aaron Jones. I don't think he didn't have like a monster game in my opinion, but McCaffrey's definitely a different beast, I think, than any running backs except maybe Dalvin Cook, Saquon, healthy Saquon, I'd throw in that conversation. But definitely going to be a tall task for Atlanta. Already touched on Houston and Baltimore. Going to the 4 o'clock games, so 4 o'clock games. So we have Arizona in San Francisco. I love Arizona. I love Kyler Murray. He looked great in their unfortunate loss against Tampa last week, but this defense is going to be a whole nother beast. I don't expect really hardly anything on offense for Arizona against the San Francisco defense. San Francisco walks away with this one, I think. Anything to add there? I mean, I don't think there's...
I've kind of been a believer in the Cardinals.
Okay.
Kyler Murray especially. I think he is great. The Cardinals defense isn't, but I think this one is going to be close. I'm considering it for my upset of the week. I still am not sure where I'm going here.
I'm still kind of looking through them too.
I like this game. I like the Cardinals. I think Kyler Murray's only getting better, and I think they have a real chance to beat the 49ers, give them their second loss in a row.
Okay. I like it. So a weird 4 o'clock matchup now. Bengals and Raiders. Again, not going to touch on this one too much because the Bengals are terrible, 0-9, but I think the Raiders handle this game in Oakland. They're going to run away with this one. Darren Waller, big game. Josh Jacobs, big game on the ground. I'm excited. So, game of the week, 4:25, Patriots and Eagles. I think this is one that a lot of people have circled on their weekly calendars. In Philadelphia, Patriots and Eagles both coming off a bye week, freshly rested there. What do you think of this matchup?
I think it's a dangerous one for the Patriots. They might be losing 2 in a row here.
Think so?
Yeah, I think Carson Wentz is going to have an impressive game. I think Tom Brady, we saw him look, I don't know, not great last time against the Ravens. That was the last game that he played. And if Wentz is able to put up some points and make Brady play from behind like the Ravens did, could be trouble for the Patriots.
Yeah, for sure. So that's really all I have to say. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a great game. Not sure if I'm confident picking Philly for my official upset this week, but it definitely wouldn't surprise me for sure. In Philly, that environment's going to be electric going at Brady and the Patriots.
Yeah, true.
So,
their defense, their secondary is bad, but their front seven is, they're pretty impressive, and if there's a recipe for beating Tom Brady, it's get to him.
For sure. So primetime matchups, just to wrap things up, Bears and Rams. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one. We're running a little long this week. I think it's a good potential bounce-back game for the Rams, but we kind of already mentioned loser of this game, probably done. I mean, it doesn't really look good the rest of the way for the loser of this matchup.
2 insanely tough divisions.
Yeah, so definitely a good game for both teams that they're going to be try their hardest to get the victory there. And Monday night, Kansas City Chiefs at LA Chargers. Another divisional game, really important matchup, I think. Chargers trying to stay in the thick of things at 4-6. Chiefs, we already mentioned, disappointing 6-4. This is one that I'm kind of raises an eyebrow a little bit. Chiefs defense, like we mentioned, has looked terribly so far. See if Mahomes and the offense can try to carry them. Melvin Gordon's been looking great for the Chargers lately as well, so yeah, I'm excited. I like both of these primetime matchups. I think they're going to be good.
Could be a dangerous game for the Chiefs. Like you said, their defense has been bad, especially against the run, and Melvin Gordon is just coming to form. So he could carry the Chargers here to a close game, if not a victory. I'm really considering this one for the upset of the week too, but yeah, I think just Mahomes is too good, and it'll stay close, but Mahomes is going to pull it out at the end.
Okay. So, upset of the week time. Went through all the matchups here. I'll go first this week since we'll try to alternate them. I kind of have a boring pick, but it's one that I'm at least confident in because there's a couple of those ones we mentioned where I would like to pick the Chargers or the Eagles, but I just don't know if they'll be able to stop the powerhouses of New England and Kansas City. I'm going to go with Nick Foles and the Jags over the Colts in Indianapolis, especially if Brissett's back. I think the Jags are the clear underdogs here. Not by a lot, but I definitely think they'll be the underdogs at 4-5. I like the Jags to beat the Colts. I think that Colts offense does look good with Brissett in there, obviously compared to compared to the backups that they've been rolling with. But yeah, I'll take the Jags. Nick Foles is back. See what he does. Hopefully, I'm always been a Nick Foles fan after that Super Bowl run and everything. So new team, unfortunate start for him, but hopefully he stays healthy and he gets the win.
All right, yeah, we got it last week with the Browns over the Bills. So got to keep the streak going here. And I like picking exciting games, so I'm going to take the Eagles over the Patriots here. We talked about it, not much more I want to say, but I think the Eagles at home, they're going to give the Patriots their second straight loss on the season.
All right, there you have it, guys. So that's where we'll wrap it up, right around a 40-minute mark here. So, yeah, there you go. Jags are beating the Colts, and the Eagles are upsetting the Patriots for their second straight loss. So
feel good about that one.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Feel free to drop a comment, drop a like. Let us know what you think of the podcast. We obviously love doing this regardless, so it's just a lot of fun to be in front of the mic and give our opinions. So let us know what you think. Agree, disagree about anything we went over. We kind of had a lot to talk about today. But yeah, in the description, power rankings that I put out every single week. So some surprises in there. A lot of teams moving around after the upsets we talked about. And yeah, Heated Sports website, social media is down there as well. So be sure to check us out. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back here next week. So see you next time.